today, we're going to be talking about poetry. Who here by a silent hand has done poetry before? Andy has?
English.
Jenny? Awesome, you've done it in English? Okay, so because next year you're going to be learning about poetry, we're going to do a little introduction today. Okay? So, Andy, you can press enter. Okay? When you see this little pencil man, that means that you're taking notes. Okay? He will be up here in the corner. Okay? So when you see this pencil man, Jesus, what are you doing?
Taking notes.
Taking notes. Awesome. Andy, you can press enter. Okay? And when you see this little student writing, it means you're doing a writing activity. Okay? So if you see this little man in the corner, Jackie, what are you doing?
Taking notes.
Taking notes? No, the little pencils for taking notes. What's the little boy for?
Writing activity.
A writing activity. Awesome. Angie, you can press enter. Okay? So this is our do now. Jenny, can you read the directions out loud?
We will read the poem below as a class. After reading, respond to the 2 questions.
Okay, great. So we're going to read this together as a class. I'll read this poem out loud, but later in the lesson I'll let you guys read some poems too. Okay, so the poem is called Snowball. I made myself a snowball, as perfect as could be. I thought I'd keep it as a pet and let it sleep with me. I made it some pajamas and a pillow for its head. Then last night it ran away, but first it wet the bed. Okay, so what happened to the snowball? Andy?
Wet the bed.
It wet the bed. Why? Jesus?
Because the snowball melted.
Because the snowball melted. Awesome. Okay, so write independently these 2 questions on your own. Okay, I want to see everyone writing. Andy started. Awesome job, Andy. Thank you. Jesus, good job. Thank you. Jackie started on question number 2, but she's still writing. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, so Andy is earning a positive point for working on his do now silently. Jesus is earning a positive point for working on his do now silently. So are Jackie and Jenny, and Kim is also earning a positive point for working on her do now silently. You guys are doing great. Okay, about 30 more seconds to finish up. Andy, are you done? Great job. Thank you for reading silently. Is this one more question, or are you done? There's 2 questions. Okay, and I see that everyone's writing in complete sentences. That makes me really happy because you're following directions. Okay, Jackie, you almost done? Okay, so question number 1. Kim, what is this poem about? It was about a snowball that melted. Great. And number 2, Andy, what happened to the snowball and why?
What happened to the snowball is that the snowball melted in the bed, and because it melt because the last night it ran away first.
So if I put a snowball in my bed, is it going to stay a snowball?
No.
No, it's going to melt. Why, Jenny?
Because the snowball is cold.
The snow needs to be cold to stay snow, right?
You
Would you put a snowball in your bed?
No.
No?
I would.
You put a snowball in your bed? How about you, Kim? No, I wouldn't put a snowball in my bed.
I'll put a freezer on my bed and then put the snowball in it.
Okay, so we're going to continue with the lesson and learn a little bit more about poetry. We're going to go back to this poem in about 15 minutes, okay? So remember this poem. Okay, Auntie, go ahead. Okay, so what do we see up there in the corner, Jenny? Taking notes, okay? So the directions are, as Miss Greer goes over the PowerPoint, fill in the notes on the slide that have a pencil in the corner. Okay, so Andy, you can press enter. So poetry looks different from other kinds of text. It's not a story, it's not a novel. Poetry is different. Okay, so poetry looks different than other kinds of text. Go ahead, Andy. Okay, poetry is written in verses and lines instead of one big paragraph. Okay, so remember how we saw Snowball? It had different lines. It wasn't one big paragraph.
Yes.
Okay, and Andy, go ahead, press enter. And And poems are divided into groups of lines called stanzas.
Isn't stanza paragraphs?
Yep, stanzas act just like paragraphs do in stories, but they're short little groups of words. So they look like paragraphs, but paragraphs are made of sentences.
It's just lines. Like
Yes, exactly. Okay, I see everyone has this part of the notes down. Awesome job. Next page. Flip it over. Next page. Next page. Okay, Andy, you can press enter too. Okay, so this is an example of a stanza. Okay, see the little mini groups of words? These are called stanzas. So, Kim, how many stanzas are in this poem? 3. Very good. Okay, Andy, press enter. Okay, so again, we see our little pencil, so we're going to take notes. Go ahead, Andy. Okay, using reading strategies will help you understand any text, especially poetry. Have you guys talked about reading strategies this year?
Yeah.
Yep, so we all know some different reading strategies?
Yes.
Okay, Andy, go ahead, press enter. So visualization is a key strategy and a useful tool for reading and understanding poetry. So sometimes poetry can be difficult to understand because it's not always written in a way that we're used to. But if you use visualization, it's going to really help you understand the poem. Okay, so Andy, go ahead. When you visualize, you form images in your mind as you read. Okay, so visualization is when you're forming images in your mind as you read. Okay, so, Jesus, if I was reading a story about being on a farm in the countryside with rolling hills and cows and chickens everywhere, what would I see in my mind if I was using visualization?
Can you repeat it?
If I was reading a book about a big farm in the country with cows all over the field and chickens,
Oh, I think that you were
what would I see?
imagine yourself in that farm.
Perfect. I'd imagine myself in that farm. So Andy, go ahead, press enter. So if I read a big pink elephant, what would I see?
A big pink elephant.
A big pink elephant. So that would help me understand the story better because I'm picturing it in my mind.
Do those
Okay.
exist?
I don't think so. I don't think pink elephants exist, but maybe in your imagination.
What about if they paint them?
They would probably exist if you painted them. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is our last notes. You guys are doing great. So now we're going to talk about literacy elements, ways that poems are written. Okay, so recognizing literacy elements will help you understand what the author is trying to say in their poem. Okay, so we look at different literacy elements, so different ways that poems are written and how the author writes them. So we have 2 literacy elements that we're talking about today, an hyperbole and imagery. So Andy, press enter. And a hyperbole is an exaggerated statement or claim. An exaggerated statement. Does anyone know what exaggerated means? Andy?
Like when you exaggerate something, like when you say like it was really good, but you say it was really.
That is a perfect example of using an exaggeration, Andy. So a hyperbole is an exaggerated statement or claim within a text. Okay? And hyperbole. So everyone say hyperbole together.
Hyperbole.
Perfect. Okay? And imagery is when images are created by words. So if I said I was wearing blue polka dotted striped pajamas with fuzzy little slippers and a nice baseball cap on top of my head, would that help you see what I was wearing?
Yes.
Yes, so imagery is really using details by words. Okay, Angie, go ahead. So, this is an example of a hyperbole. I told you 1,000,000 times. Do you think you would ever tell someone something 1,000,000 times? No. So what you're really trying to say is, I told you many times. Okay? But 1,000,000 times is an example of what, Jenny? And what type, if I were to write this in a story or in a poem, what literacy element would I be using? Perfect, because a hyperbole is what, Jesus?
Hyperbole is. Can I help him?
Andy, yes, you can help him, thank you.
Hyperbole is when you exaggerate or something.
You exaggerate something, very good. Okay, next slide. Awesome. So now we're going to go back and read the poem Snowball. Okay? So who would like to read the poem out loud again for us? Who would like to read it this time? Jesus? Awesome. Go ahead.
I made myself a snowball as perfect as could be.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I shaped it as a pet and let it sleep for me. I made it some pajamas and a pillow for it too, and for its head. Then last night it ran away, but first it went to bed.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to do question 1 together. By using visualization, what did you picture in your mind while reading this poem? Write one complete sentence. So what did you picture in your mind? When you were reading this poem, you should have been using the reading strategy of visualization. What were you picturing in your mind? See everyone writing except for Jackie? Okay, everyone is doing such a great job today. I really appreciate you writing, especially when you write in complete sentences. Okay, so number 2 says, what is one line from the poem that creates imagery? Write the example below.